It's been a crazy week for me. I just got back from a cruise. It's Carnival Cruise. There's a group called Smiles at Sea. My friend Elijah Desmond runs this group, and right prior to the event, they have a speech contest. It's called Dentistry's Got Talent, and I was one of the coaches and one of the judges. And 3 days on a cruise, that's enough for anybody, to tell you the truth. I think the optimal cruise duration is 2 days. We went 3. Anyway, we went down to Cozumel, Mexico, where there was a tropical storm. The tropical storm was kind of raging when we left the port in Galveston. And the first night at sea was pretty bouncy. That's when I did my talk. I had a 2-hour talk in front of about 400 people, and it was in a comedy club on the ship. And the boat is bouncing, and people are drinking, and it was just a real hoot. It was really exciting. So I can see where people could get very seasick on boats. They've had a lot to drink and they're bouncing around. So, okay, Glenn, so I see it's just you. All right. I've got a good feeling about that as more and more people are beginning to enroll in this. This will be a good thing. We've worked pretty hard at this, to tell you the truth. You know, when we actually start this webinar, I'm going to give you a little bit of history as to how this has come about. But we're really excited about it. And it's really, the material that I'm going to present here has really stood the test of time. I've been teaching case acceptance now for, close to 25, 30 years. I used it in my own practice. And when I left practice, I began to put together workshops and seminars and study clubs, and written 3 books on the topic. So it's been a good trip. Thomas, hey, Thomas, you joined. Where are you from, Thomas? Give us a sense. Where are you from? And who's with you? Are you by yourself? You listening to this? Where are you from, Thomas? Get to know the group here a little bit. See what happens here. Got back from the cruise, and oh, you know how it is. You go on vacation, and on the cruise, Chicago. Yeah, I'm from Chicago. I was born in Cicero, Illinois, graduated University of Illinois College of Dentistry, 1975, and actually lived in Elmhurst. And I was living in Elmhurst, went to York High School, all of that. And after I graduated dental school, I left Chicago. That was 1975. I left Chicago. And I've really never lived there again. I've been back plenty of times to visit and to do workshops there. I have to admit, Chicago is my favorite city. I know I'm prejudiced because that's where I'm from, but Chicago, you've got to admit, Thomas, I'd be interested in your opinion on this. Chicago is the city to be in between Memorial Day and Labor Day. Beyond that, it gets a little cold, a little gray. Would you agree with that, Thomas? Between Labor Day and Memorial Day, Chicago is the place to be? Rather, between Memorial Day and Labor Day. That's what I meant. Thomas is deciding whether he even wants to answer that one. I don't blame him. I agree. There we go. Outstanding. Very good. So we've got a few more minutes here, and we'll go ahead and get started. I've got 5:19. We'll get rolling here. I'm actually I got these earbuds are kind of moving around in my head a little bit. I'll have to adjust them from time to time. I'm in the little city of Surprise, Arizona. We're just north and west of Scottsdale, Arizona. I came here, my wife and I, we were living in Charlotte at the time. This goes back about 2 years. And I had a client who was flying me across the country to really kickstart a learning and development program he had going on. And he's got a learning and development program in Scottsdale. So I suggested to the client, I said, well, why don't you just rent me a home? My wife and I will move out. That way I don't have to keep flying back and forth, and I can get a lot more done if I'm not spending so much time in airplanes. And he agreed with that. Well, we were here in Scottsdale about 2 weeks. And I remember we were in a grocery store. Now we're in a rental house. You got to understand this. We're in a rental house. Our home in Charlotte. We got all our stuff in Charlotte. And we're in the grocery store, Safeway. That's the big grocery store here in Scottsdale. And we're in the grocery store. We're on the ketchup aisle. And we're looking at the ketchup. Now, which ketchup doesn't have high fructose corn syrup in it, right? Because my wife's a nutritionist and a chef. So we're talking about the ketchup, and she just mentions, it'd be nice to kind of move here. What do you think? We were there 2 weeks. Well, we started talking about, does it make sense for us to move full time to Scottsdale? And by the time we hit the cash register, we decided we were going to sell our home and move full time to Scottsdale. That was 2 years ago. And we ultimately bought some raw land, built a house, and that's where I'm broadcasting from right now. It's a little town called Surprise, and it's delightful and it's hot as hell, but it's a little resort community we live on. It's got a great golf course. Last night we were playing ping pong and shooting pool and having some good times with friends, and I'm still licking my wounds from the cruise program. Those can be, it's a bit of a booze cruise, you know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, we had a real good time. And I think that the continuing education environment is getting very robust now. You got things like this, you got webinars, you've got everything that occurs online. And we're going to talk a bit about my online program today. And, the seminar business for me is really strong. I spend too much time on airplanes. I'm going to, as a matter of fact, I'm going up to Salt Lake City. I leave tomorrow afternoon, flying to Salt Lake City, going up there with a group called Dental Intel and Solution Reach. They're the hosts. And we're going to listen to some speakers on communication and building a consulting business. I'm one of the speakers. I'll be speaking for 2 hours there. So that should be a fun time. They asked me if I wanted to play golf when I was there. Now, I don't pass up an opportunity to play golf. Turns out, though, it's the elevation is 8,000 feet. This is high. I tell you what. I know. It's like when I fly to Denver, I get off the airplane, all right? You walk into the terminal. I'm 10 steps into the terminal, and I can already feel the difference in the altitude. And that's at 5,280 feet. You're really the Mile High City, right? This is at 8,000 feet. So it's going to be a challenge, although the balls will fly further at higher altitudes. So I'll feel better about what I'm doing with my golf swing, I'm sure. So let's check the time. Let's see how we're doing here. I've got 5:28. Is that right? I need to put my glasses on to see this time just right here. Okay, here we go. 5:33. Is that right? Let me take a look. Yep, it is. Okay, well, let's just go ahead and start. And as people come on, they come on. Well, you probably guessed that I'm Paul Homoly, and this is our webinar on how to expect case acceptance for complete dentistry without blowing patients out of the water due to sticker shock. This webinar has been, I would say, about 1.5 years, 2 years in the making. Let me tell you why. A lot of you know that I've been teaching case acceptance for many years. I graduated dental school in 1975, University of Illinois, joined the Navy, got out of the Navy in 1977, got really involved in implant dentistry very early. Placed my first dental implant in 1978. 1979, it became legal and ethical for professionals to market directly to the public. You see, before then, dentists and physicians and really any professional, attorneys and accountants and everybody couldn't market directly to the public. And that all changed in 1979. So I got really, really aggressive and started marketing implant dentistry, something to smile about, the good news of dentistry. And I practiced for 20 years, really lectured on implant and prosthetic surgery and prosthetics literally all over the world. You're going to hear a little bit about this. But I retired from clinical practice in 1995. I had an eye disability. My right eye had some severe problems with my right eye and lost my depth perception. It's a long and ugly story, but the long and short of it is I started teaching practice development, how dentists can develop complete care practices. And one thing led to another, and I've written 3 books on the topic. And about 1.5 years ago, I launched an online program. And that was the test for me. I said, is this material strong enough? Has it stood enough to test the time? And we very carefully and slowly began to enroll it over time to kind of test the instructional design, to see if people liked it, see if anybody wanted their money back, you know how that goes. But now we've got a little over 100 people enrolled in it for a year and a half. The results have been terrific. And so I made the decision to kind of come out in a big way and begin to spread the good news of what we're doing relative to case acceptance for complete care dentistry without any fear of sticker shock. And so this webinar is going to be a combination of things. I'm live right now. I'm sitting in my office right now. I'm live. And what I did is to avoid all of the hassles and snafus that occur with online programs, I went into the studio. This is about 2 months ago. I went to the studio and I recorded about 50 minutes of material. I wanted high production quality. I wanted super duper. I didn't want any loose ends. So you're gonna see about a 50-minute video of me talking to you about the case acceptance process, what works and why. I'm going to talk about the 4 limiting mindsets that dentists and team members have that set them up for sticker shock, that set that whole thing up. And then when you're done with the 50 minutes, and believe me, you'll want to watch the entire video, because at the end of the video, I'm going to come back live. I'm going to be right here, and we've got this chat box over here. I'm going to answer any questions and comments, make some concluding remarks, and see how I can best support you guys. Okay? So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to start the video. It's going to be about 50 minutes, and brace yourself, because we put a lot of work into this, and I hope you enjoy it. So Scott, if you could go ahead and run the video now.
Hi, I'm Dr. Paul Homoly. Imagine what your practice could be when you're able to expect case acceptance for complete dentistry with no fear of losing patients to sticker shock. Wouldn't that be nice? That's my promise to you for attending today's webinar. I'm going to show you shortcuts to get you on the road to building a complete care practice. At the end of this webinar, I'm going to show you how to be twice as influential with complete care patients in half the time you're spending now. Plus, I'll show you how your team can do it too. Imagine that. Let me begin by telling you how I got my start imagining good things. I grew up in Elmhurst, Illinois, a western suburb of Chicago. When I was little, I had crossed eyes, and my mom and I would take the Northwestern train to downtown Chicago, where my eye doctor practiced. My mom told me he was a specialist who helped little boys like me with crossed eyes. I think about that now, and how much of a stretch it was for my family for me to see an eye specialist. You see, there were 7 of us, 4 kids, Mom and Dad, and we had a small beagle named Christy. We lived in a 900 square foot Cape Cod home with 1 bathroom and 1 phone on the wall with a 5-foot stretch cord. My dad was a carpenter who built decks, room additions, and small garages. At the time, my mom was a waitress at Mario's Hamburgers. She'd come home with her apron pockets filled with tips and spill them out on the kitchen table. Lots of nickels and dimes. I'd stack them up in the columns. We didn't have much money, but my mom wanted me to have straight eyes. So we'd climb onto the train and ride it for 45 minutes. Back then, trains were filthy. Cigarette butts smoldered in the armrest ashtrays. The seats reeked of cigars. We'd be queasy by the time we got downtown. We walked to my eye doctor's office, and on the way, we'd go down Michigan Avenue. Michigan Avenue in Chicago is the best. We'd walk the route that Chicagoans call the Magnificent Mile. Great energy, the best of everything Chicago could offer. My mom would point out men. She'd say, "Paulie, see these men carrying those briefcases? They're called executives. And one day, you're going to be an executive." Well, I didn't become an executive. I became a dentist, which was good enough for my mom. When I go back in time and I recall those moments that shaped who I am today, it was those walks down Michigan Avenue that inspired me to imagine what my life could be. Today, it's about you imagining what your practice could be when you can expect case acceptance for complete care. So get out paper and pencil, get ready to take notes, close your inbox, close Facebook, give this your full attention. This work today is important, and you deserve to make every moment of it count. So let's focus together. Now, if I were you listening to this webcast, one of the first things I'd want to know is, okay, so what's your track record, Homoly? What proof do you have that your case acceptance process for complete dentistry works? What makes this training different? Or more importantly, what makes it better? How do I know any of this will work for me? Okay, so here are my answers. Let's start with my track record. First of all, I've been where many of you may be now. When I was a young dentist, I consumed hundreds of hours of continuing education. I discovered learning the technical aspects of complete dentistry was the easy part. The hard part was having my patients accept my treatment recommendations. Does that sound familiar? Back then, my case presentation process was all about educating patients how I'd fix their teeth. Over time, I realized that along with patient education, they also needed to be influenced to accept care. That turning point resulted in me being able to build a complete care reconstructive practice for the next 15 years. Here's my point. I've been where you are now. I've lived the same experiences, and I know what's missing from traditional training on case acceptance, and I know how to fix it. Today, my case acceptance process contributes to millions of dollars of collections every month. Hundreds of dentists use it, solo practitioners, dentists in large groups, bread and butter practices, and complex care dentists. Now, near the end of this webinar, you're going to hear from dentists who have used my case acceptance principles. You'll learn how it increased their revenue, how it lowered their stress, how it enabled them to do more of the dentistry they love, how it helped them retain patients and team members and get what they deserve from dentistry. I have dentists who have been using my process for over 2 decades. I also have recent graduates successfully using it. Understand, I'm not some armchair practice management consultant who's never practiced and hasn't sold 10 cents worth of dentistry. Now I don't want to brag, but here's what my case acceptance process did for me. I reconstructed over 4,500 patients with general and implant restorative dentistry. My practice combined patient care with surgical and restorative continuing education courses. I built a commercial dental laboratory serving complete care dentists nationwide. I employed general dentists and specialists to offer a complete range of services. I, along with several other faculty members, helped Dr. Carl Misch create the Misch International Implant Institute, where I taught for a decade. I've written 3 books on case acceptance. I speak at all the major meetings, authored dozens of articles, and have taught at all the leading dental institutes. I became the first dentist worldwide to enjoy the highest earned designation in professional speaking from the National Speakers Association. My speaking credentials have enabled me to deliver key opinion leader development programs for top market leaders, including Sirona, Ivoclar, Dentsply, Noble Biocare, Ormco, Philips, Kerr, the Pride Institute, and the Dawson Academy. I know how to develop dentists as clinicians and as leaders. I put my reputation on the line when I make an offer to the marketplace. If I'm not 100% confident that my offering is solid, I don't offer it until it is. What you're about to experience, I am 100% confident it's solid. Now, how do I know my process will work for you? It's simple. It will work for you because I know it will work for your patients. You see, the patient experience is very similar among all practices. Rich or poor patients, young or old, regardless of their situation, patients universally all want the same thing. They want the experience of being well cared for. This is human nature. It's as true now as it was 100 years ago. Advances in dentistry don't change human nature. My process will work for you because it's designed to appeal to the deep human need of wanting to be well cared for. When patients sense this, it's their first step in becoming ready for complete dentistry. No other case acceptance process in dentistry does this as well as the one you're about to learn. If you've been well trained to provide complete dentistry but aren't thriving, I can tell you with certainty there's something missing. For most dentists, what's missing is they is they aren't connecting with patients. Their case presentation is simply an explanation of a treatment plan. Now, this may work for modest care patients, but for complete care patients, where treatment is complicated and expensive, reciting a long-winded treatment plan does more to confuse patients than it does to connect with them. This program is about connecting with patients. It's important to understand that none of this came easy to me. I did many things the hard way, lots of trial and error. Early in my practice, I did full diagnostic workups on all new patients, whether they were ready for it or not. I tried to overcome their objections to full mouth radiographs and study models and face pose and all the things I thought I needed for case acceptance. Oh yes, I had everything I needed, but when patients learned the fee for complete dentistry, it blew many of them out of the water. After watching too many of them walk out my front door, I changed things. I did far less diagnostic work. I encouraged same-day dentistry and focused on chief complaints and offered partial treatment plans based on what I thought they'd accept. This safe approach didn't blow patients out of the water, but I didn't stick with it too long because I felt I was underserving patients. Swinging from one approach to another for case acceptance went on for a few years. Then I decided to do something about it. I set out to learn how other dentists presented complete care, which turned out to be easier said than done. See, back then, the case acceptance gurus, they didn't have websites. There were no websites, which meant I couldn't kick back and watch their YouTube videos. No, I had to get on a plane, fly somewhere, live in a hotel for a weekend, sit through the lectures, fly home, and see patients the next morning. I did this for years. I spent money I didn't have and burned a candle at both ends. I had young kids, a young marriage, and a new practice that needed me there, not in some hotel. Now, I'd like to tell you how one day some generous case acceptance guru put his arms around me and in a grandfatherly fashion gave me the secret to case acceptance. No, it wasn't anything like that. My breakthroughs came in small pieces, little scraps at a time I'd scoop up during conversations with dentists during dinners, or sitting at bars and talking and drawing on napkins and trying to figure it all out. It took me thousands of dollars, too many consecutive weekends away, far too much time in airplane, missing good times at home, and scrambling back to my practice on Monday. The pieces of the jigsaw puzzle of case acceptance were given to me over time by some great dentists. I didn't create the pieces, they did. My work was putting them together. As I put the pieces together, here's what began to appear. For case acceptance to be successful, it has to appeal. It has to appeal to the patient. My focus for years was doing what appealed to me. I liked having full mouth radiographs and study models and taking photos and getting into deep technical conversations. It felt good. It was like flexing my intellectual muscles from all the effort I put into continuing education. I wanted patients to know how much I knew. The fact was, my case acceptance process wasn't about the patient. It was about me. That realization was a turning point. And you know what? It can be yours too. Today, I'm going to share with you the 4 positive mindsets that will enable you to expect case acceptance for complete dentistry without losing patients to sticker shock. That's my promise today. Now, I want to be clear about 2 things before we move forward. First, when I say complete dentistry, I mean diagnosing, recommending, and treating all patients' conditions that restore them to optimum function, comfort, aesthetics, phonetics, and airway. Now, for younger patients who are already in good dental health, this may entail simple operative and preventative procedures. For older patients, it may mean full mouth reconstructions. The second thing to clarify is the concept of sticker shock. You already know what that is. It's when patients are surprised or embarrassed or angered about your fees. You know, it disrupts relationships and usually results in patients abandoning practices. Sticker shock threshold for many patients begins at the $3,500 to $5,000 level. For adult patients who need complete dentistry, it's common for their fees to exceed $10,000, which puts them well above their threshold for sticker shock. For many dentists and team members, this is also well above their threshold for sticker shock. Consequently, when they quote fees above their threshold, they lack confidence, which patients can sense. Dentist and team member sticker shock is one of the leading reasons why patients don't accept complete care. Today, this program is about the positive mindsets you need to expect case acceptance for complete care that's well above your and your patient's sticker shock thresholds. And doing it all without surprising or embarrassing or angering patients, and keeping them in your practice so when they become ready for care, they'll choose you. Think about it. What would case acceptance for complete care dentistry mean to you? The obvious answer is greater collections and profitability. But the trickle-down effect offers even greater value. Imagine how much more fulfilled you'll be if you weren't stressed about the income and expense side of your practice. How would you feel not to worry about affording fine equipment or hiring top team members or taking time off for continuing education or just getting away from it all? So what would keep you from enjoying these benefits? It's been my experience dentists have 4 limiting mindsets that work against them. Here's what too many dentists are thinking. Number 1, they're thinking, well, I believe patient education is the driver of case acceptance for complete dentistry. Or 2, they're thinking, well, you know what? I don't have time to get to know my patients. Or number 3, during case presentations, my patients need to learn how I'm going to fix their teeth. And number 4, I can't change the way I do things. So here's what we're going to do. Let's replace each limiting mindset with an empowering one. Let's start with the first one. The first one is, I believe patient education is the driver of case acceptance for complete dentistry. Let's replace it with an empowering mindset of understanding patients. Understanding patients is the driver of case acceptance for complete dentistry. Here's an example that could be from your practice. Imagine your new patient, Helen. She's excited yet cautious about having her teeth restored. She's spent most of her life wishing she was more confident in her appearance, especially her smile. In fact, she's learned how to hide her teeth when she laughs. You do a complete exam with all the trimmings. You take models and face photos and 3D scan photos. Your post-exam discussion points out her conditions, how those conditions came about, consequences of the conditions if left untreated, multiple treatment options, along with the benefits, risks, and alternatives of the options. That's a lot. Between the time taken for the exam, the post-exam discussion, and time with your hygienist, Helen spends close to 2 hours in your practice. At the end of the hygiene visit, she asks for a fee estimate for everything that you've discussed. Well, you defer answering her, and you tell her to return in a few days for a consultation. Well, Helen leaves her office exhausted and not nearly as cheerful as when she walked in. A week later, she returns. You spend 45 minutes discussing your treatment options, and at the end of it, she asks, well, how much will all this cost? And your answer makes her wince. Oh, and she says, wow, I had no idea this would be so expensive. I'm sorry, but I have to go home and think about it. Helen leaves, never returns. Now, I bet this scenario has happened to you more than once. It's happened to all of us. Let's take a look how this came about and what you can do about it. The underpinning to this scenario is the limiting mindset that patient education will drive patients to accept complete care. This mindset is so fundamental to dentists that they never even think to question it. In fact, many dentists believe it so completely, they arrive at the conclusion if patient education is good for case acceptance, then more of it is even better. Consequently, year after year, they lose patients to sticker shock who never return. They rationalize patients leaving their practices due to their low dental IQs, which gives them even more motive to amp up patient education. Now, what if we replace the limiting mindset with an empowering one that says, understanding patients. Understanding patients is the driver of case acceptance for complete care. Now, this is not to say we don't educate patients. But we'll add an extra element crucial to influencing them to accept care. That element is understanding them. Here's another example that could be from your practice. Your new patient, Ray, arrives, and it happens that day you're really not that busy. You two get into this lively conversation about Ray's sons who play on a high school baseball team. You tell them about your boys, and before you know it, you're both enjoying one of those rare moments in dentistry where you've got time to connect. You do your exam, you have the post-exam discussion, and during all of it, you two get to know each other. A week later, Ray returns. You offer care and you quote the fee. He too is surprised and says he'd like to go home and talk to his wife about it and leaves. Now, months later, long after you've forgotten about him, he returns, he's waving your treatment plan, and he says, "I'm ready," and starts complete care. I know this has happened to you. Patients who you believe are long gone, one day show up and they start complete care. Here's my question. What motivated Ray to return? Is it his dim memory of all the detailed clinical information? Or is it that he liked you and the way you connected with him? You see, here's the big difference between patients like Helen and Ray. With Helen, you did a great job of educating her, but you spent no time getting to know her other than her clinical condition. There was no personal connection. If Helen seeks advice from other dentists, she'll choose the one who personally connects with her or the one with the lowest fees. With Ray, it was different. You took time to get to know him and him to know you. You delivered the experience of being understood. Complete care patients love this. It builds their confidence that you will take great care of them. I said it earlier. It's human nature to want to be well cared for. Taking time to understand patients gives them this experience. And when they become ready for care, they'll ask you to do it. Taking time to connect with your patients and getting to know each other brings up the second limiting mindset. Here's what dentists are thinking. They're thinking, well, I don't have time to get to know my patients. During the 30 plus years I've been coaching dentists, this is the most common objection that I hear. Here's what I've never heard. I've never heard, well, I don't think it's important getting to know my patients. No, dentists agree. Getting to know patients is important. They just have issues with finding the time or knowing what's most important to know about patients or the best way to build it into their new patient experience. Here is an empowering mindset. Think about this. My patients want me to know them. Start believing this, and you'll find ways to do it. Here's a shortcut to get you started. Let's go back to your patient, Helen. There are 3 things Helen wants you to know about her. First, she wants you to know why she wants her teeth fixed. Next, she wants you to know that she's got a lot going on in her life, and she's going to need help fitting your care into all of it. And third, she wants you to know she needs confidence in you to proceed with care. In the time we have today, it's not possible to give you all the details and how to learn all about your patients. However, I'm totally confident with practice, you can discover everything Helen wants you to know about her in less than 7 minutes. In this example, here are the 3 things Helen wants you to know. First, she wants her teeth fixed because she wants to look great at her granddaughter's wedding and in all the photos. Next, she has a busy business and travel schedule and a 2-week trip coming up to visit her husband's brother in Spain. The third item Helen wants you to know is she needs confidence in you to proceed with care. Think about this. So how do you give patients like Helen high levels of confidence now? Certainly, your thoroughness during the exam, the appearance of your facility, the efficiency and friendliness of you and your team could build their confidence. But you do that now, don't you? So do many other competing dental offices. What I'm talking about is taking Helen's confidence in you to a whole nother level. Well, here's some good news. When you have a great conversation with Helen about why she wants her teeth fixed, when you connect with her about everything that's going on now that makes dental care important, when you're curious about her significant life events, you will have already taken giant steps in building the kind of confidence in you that she may have never experienced with a healthcare provider. And you know what? You did it all in less than 7 minutes. That's as long as it's taken me to explain this. Let's go back to the promise I made about expecting case acceptance for complete dentistry without losing patients to sticker shock. The empowering mindset of my patients want me to know them is the real deal of why patients accept your care. And in the event they're not ready for care, they'll never forget how good they felt about the way you offered it. And when they become ready, they'll ask you to do it. Now, let's get into the third limiting mindset about case acceptance for complete care. Here it is. During case presentations, patients need to learn how I'm going to fix their teeth. This is related to the first limiting mindset that patient education is the driver of case acceptance. Both of these limiting mindsets exist because in the absence of knowing your patients, as previously discussed, explaining treatment processes, options, and consent issues are really all you have to talk about during case presentation. Dentists hope that these process and consent explanations that patients somehow figure out how all of this will help them. Well, some do, but many don't. For many dentists, their case presentation is simply an explanation of a treatment plan. This may work for modest care patients, but for complete care patients where treatment is complicated and expensive, reciting a long-winded treatment plan does more to confuse patients than it does to connect with them. This program is about connecting with complete care patients. So let's replace this limiting mindset with an empowering one. Here it is. During case presentation, patients need to learn I understand why they want to get their teeth fixed and how it must fit into their lives. Let's apply this to your patient, Helen. You've done your 7-minute interview, getting to know her, and you've completed your exam. Right after, you had a short conversation with her to make sure she was aware of all her conditions, and you became aware of all her concerns. Now, I want you to imagine Helen is sitting in front of you right now. Your treatment coordinator is in the room with you. Embracing the empowering mindset and the understanding that comes with it, here's how your case presentation can start. This is how you'll talk to Helen. Here's the beginning. Helen, I understand you're really looking forward to looking great at your granddaughter's wedding and all the photos. I know this is an important event for you. My wife and I felt the same way when our daughter got married. I'm confident we can help you get a great looking smile. We help a lot of patients doing this type of dentistry. You also told me you have a lot going on in your life right now, considering all the activities of the wedding, your business travel, and your trip to Spain. You have a lot on your plate right now. Let me introduce you to Joy. She's our patient advocate in our practice and helps patients fit dental care into their schedules and budgets. She's going to sit in on our conversation, and when we're done, you two can talk. Now, let's stop the case presentation to Helen right here. Now, I want to ask you something. Can you imagine starting your presentation like I just did? Many dentists tell me it feels awkward, or they object to its lack of technical information, or they're uncomfortable bringing up money issues. This lack of appeal comes from their limiting mindsets. Let me ask you this. How do you think this style of case presentation appeals to Helen? Is she disappointed because you didn't start your presentation by describing the etiology of periodontal disease? Was she looking forward to being confused by a lot of dental jargon? No, I guarantee you she wasn't. In fact, she was thrilled that you got right to the point of why she's in your office. She wants to look great at her granddaughter's wedding. That's more influential to her than anything you can say about scaling and root planning. The point is, it's more important how the style of case presentation appeals to patients than to us. When you embrace all three empowering mindsets, you will naturally evolve into a far more conversational, collaborative, and influential and interesting presenter of complete care. You'll lose the habits of over-explaining procedures, confusing patients with technical jargon, and will never have the feelings of being a salesperson. You'll find it easier to discuss things most dentists avoid, like fees or limitations of insurance coverage, or recommending treatment for conditions patients are uninterested in. Now, let me be quick to say we're going to provide patients with treatment options and their risks and all the medical legal issues of informed consent. These issues are dealt with after my patient advocate and I have answered Helen's questions. You see, informed consent is offered immediately after case presentation at the same appointment. By separating informed consent from case presentation makes both conversations easier for patients to understand and for you to deliver. Case presentation influences patients to accept care by providing them the experience of being understood. Informed consent conversations fulfill your medical legal obligations. Now, I'm going to shift gears now, and I'll let you hear from dentists who for years worked with my case acceptance process. These are videos they made of themselves talking about their experiences. Listen to all of them. Now, I'm confident that you'll hear one that sounds just like you.
In about 2002, I was at the height of my frustration, and I ended up, somebody somehow got this book in my hands. It's called Dentists and Endangered Species. Now, it's out of print, so don't bother trying to find it. But at the time, this made more sense to me than anything else I'd studied. And I thought, man, the guy who wrote this book, he gets it. And so I looked him up, and guess what? He lived in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm like, how lucky am I? So my partner and I asked him if we could take him out to lunch, and he agreed. So we went out to lunch, and I said, well, what else do you have? I mean, how can I learn your material? How can I be more like you and have the successes that you had? And he said, that's easy. I've got another book, and I've got a whole set of communication tools that you can use in a system designed just for dentists like you. And I was like, wow, awesome. So give it to me. So we got started. And currently, this is the most recent version of the system, the book. It's making it easy for patients to say yes, and a complete guide to case acceptance. And yeah, you've seen other stuff. I know you have. I've seen it too. I've looked at it, I've read it, I've done it. There's nothing like this. And I can promise you that right after we implemented the communication tools in our practice that Dr. Paul Homoly had recommended, we immediately saw success. Even not really even knowing this stuff helped us. And I decided then and there, I'm like, you know what? This is for me. Because for the first time ever, I could be honest with people. I was being transparent about my recommendations, about my dentistry, and I was influencing my patients in a positive direction. It was amazing. So, you know, there was a huge difference from going from the old communication methods to these new communication methods. And we saw that our patients became more loyal, and that the culture of our office, our team, was having more fun and enjoying it more. And there was one thing, I'll be honest with you though, that really surprised me. And this is going to sound really weird, but if there's one thing that surprised me, it's that it just didn't cost enough. We'd spent thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars learning systems that were mediocre at best, you know, different sales tactics and techniques. This cost nothing compared to those. And I was getting so much more value out of the information that I gleaned from the books and the videos that Dr. Homoly had shown us. So it wasn't a big investment, but the results for us, not just financially, but just happiness, being able to practice and knowing, you know, I can sleep at night because I'm being honest with people and they're accepting my care. And, you know, that was just amazing. It was great. And I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, because it's not me. But, we're on target this year in our practice with my partner and I and our associate and 4 hygienists to do about $6 million. And that's a pretty big deal. But we're not even finished there. We're actually expanding. We're planning on continuing to grow our practice. And Dr. Homoly is going to help us with that, because we're going to need his help in sharing this with other teams and other doctors, and helping them find out how they can influence their patients in a positive way, to where patients don't feel like they're being sold something. They feel like you're on their side, you're their advocate, and you're able to help them get the dentistry that they need and they want in a time frame that works for them, that fits into their lifestyle, it fits into their budget. And there's really nothing better than that.
And I have to admit, I was a little starstruck with Paul. Like, I'd been watching his videos and I'd heard him speak since I was like a small child. And I think I had a 1979 Paul Homoly first round draft pick, dental hero trading card in my wallet. Paul was one of my dental heroes. So I'd studied his content for a long time, and so I understood it and I felt good about it. But do you know, Clifton, aside from the clinical experience for patients, I think what really pushed me over the edge and said Paul Homoly is a good fit for us to work with was that with us having a growing group of associates and us being being a dental group and understanding that this is as much about their lives and their achievement as it is the patient experience, what I realized is that Paul's content was about developing ideal professional standards for behavior, right? The point was, we don't all want to be grinders our entire careers. We have desires to do complex procedures, and yet the same way you do complex procedures doesn't work with a grinding skill set, right? With that immediate case acceptance skill set. It just doesn't work for dentists. And what happens is dentists try and do it and they get burned, right? And so when Paul was explaining that back to us, we recognized this is what we want as professionals. This is what our dentists want as growing professionals. To me, that was kind of the real decision point in saying this is going to be a perfect fit. So that said, Clifton, let's talk a little bit about what differences it made inside of our practice.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback on what you were saying there. Looking at that specifically, one of the other things that I learned from Paul was recognizing that case acceptance, right? All of a sudden it's going to occur over time. But also what he taught us was that the greater complexity of care that we offer, the greater demand for your leadership or for our doctor's leadership. So then all of a sudden it became, Paul's definitely not a consultant, right? You and I had, how many consultants did we burn through? 4 or 5, right?
He's a real teacher.
Right, exactly. All of a sudden this became a leadership development program. And how attractive is that to our younger millennial dental population that you and I work so hard to not only attract, but to grow and to retain into ownership and partnership opportunities. So for me, personally, as you and I started transitioning away from the chair, it was very comfortable for me to look and say, you know what, the processes that Paul has taught us in our organization have actually made our doctors better leaders. Therefore, it makes me more comfortable for our doctors to offer greater complexity of care, i.e. Invisalign, large implant cases. Because if you think about it, right, going in, cranking out a crown, scanning it, CERAC, done, out the door in an hour and a half. Much leadership required there? Not much, right? But then you get into CT, implant planning, after hours guide milling, 3D printing, implant ordering, follow-ups, care calls, prescriptions. Now we're getting into the prosthetic process, right? A ton of leadership required there. And I think what happens for a lot of docs is they want to come out, they want to do the larger cases, but they don't have that foundation of leadership and taking ownership, not only for that patient experience, but for that patient outcome. And wow, I mean, for me, off the top, that's been probably the biggest impact for us to say, hey, look at how many leaders up to we're at 25 doctors right now, how many leaders we've created inside Carolina's dentists, and look at the outcomes of the experiences that are coming out of that. How about you? What have you seen has been the biggest impact?
number one, what you're saying about creating doctor leaders, our retention of dentists, we would have a yearly turnover of approximately 30% of our dentist population, right? And it was exactly what we talked about. They were done grinding that way, or they're just looking for another opportunity or whatever it might be. But after we implemented Paul's system, not only did we start developing our dentists into our current partners, but our retention rate went from losing 30% every year to retaining everybody year over year. And that's been going on now since the inception of our involvement with Paul, which is huge. And aside from that, what do you expect? You expect patient satisfaction, right? So we had dentist satisfaction. Our dentists felt like they have professional control over where their career ends up. Our patients were satisfied with the experience they were having, but you want to see it reflected, right? And I remember, Clifton, when we started seeing pieces of the Making It Easy process that we were teaching showing up in our reviews online. And so we were seeing things like, oh my gosh, this was the coolest experience I've ever had. The dentist actually came out to the waiting room reception area and greeted me and walked me back. Never will I go to another dentist. If you're stupid, don't go here, right? Like, things like that. That was just awesome to see it reflected. And then our dentists had peace about the fact that, like, we're a dental group, right? We know the DSO industry. And what does everybody worry about in the DSO industry? Like, oh, they're short-sighted. They're just going to grind, churn, and kick you out of there. It's only focused on insurance dollars. Well, that's a choice, right? And that's not what we want professionally as dentists. Well, what we started doing is we started showing our dentists that their career and their success wasn't about grinding their butt off all day long. Nobody wants to go back to operating that way, right? Everybody wants to go back to being a dentist in this manner that we live in now and that we've learned to love. And guess what? The numbers followed up, right? Our dentists their per dentist revenue is up over 20%. I think this year, Clifton, 100% of our full-time dentists in 2018, while we're recording this, will generate more than $1 million of dentistry, and that wasn't happening 4 years ago, right? We were probably less than 70% of that 4 years ago. That's what's happened because of this process. So I think
and to piggyback on those numbers, I mean, not only are we have $1 million producers in the majority of our doctors, but actually I've been watching the confidence in their treatment planning. We've had doctors that came on and in their first 12 months treatment planned around $3.2 million of dentistry in their first 12 months with us. After this process and working with the Dr. Homoly fundamentals and the way that we've taught them and led them, they're actually now producing close to $6 million, right? Or I'm sorry, treatment planning close to $6 million annually. And that's a phenomenal jump, right? That's actually them looking down and seeing more and having the confidence to say, I've got the leadership skill set, not only the actual clinical skill set to pull that off, but the leadership and soft skills to be able to present that level of dentistry and that complex of care to our patients. And so those are some really hard numbers and some eye-opening numbers that actually in my work with the Align team and the Invisalign team, that they've just been blown away with. That they look at it and they're like, whoa.
One thing I know a lot of people are probably wondering, what surprises, did we expect? What surprises did you and I have when we were working with Paul, or maybe positive, unexpected outcomes? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, one of those outcomes, I think, for me was, we talked a little bit about it earlier, but as a leader of a dental organization and you think about the long-term success or the long-term relationships that you have with your patients and ultimately your community, maintaining your credibility is such an important thing. And just that comfort to be able to go home at night and know with our processes and systems and care calls and relationship-based approach to dentistry that Paul really ingrained in you and I at a very early age allowed me to sleep better at night. I actually became a more relaxed person, a happier person. My wife would actually kind of jokingly be like, I'm really excited for you to go hang out with Paul in Arizona or Vegas or California. For some reason, she really doesn't enjoy the other CE trips that I do, or maybe have as much confidence. But she actually sees the value of Paul being a great mentor for both you and I, and ultimately for our legacy and our communities with our organization.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. There was just a general confidence and peace of mind and the way we were doing things. Something that really surprised me, I mean, Paul's got quite a body of work that he's done and case acceptance and all that stuff. But one thing that surprised me, number one, was what it was like watching him work with dentists on a one-on-one basis, or even in a small group. It's truly, I've never seen anything like it in my life. It's a thing of beauty, and his ability to create engagement within our dentists. Never have we ever had a dentist that was like, oh, that was stupid. I mean, their depth of engagement it's life-changing for them, right? And it's not the Paul Homoly's a celebrity, I can't believe it. It's like, wow, that was unbelievable how he just did that. I'm gonna do that, right?
Yep.
And so watching his communication style, and it's not just our dentists, it's with all of our team members, front office staff, treatment coordinators, office managers, everybody through the process just gets this. There's a richness to working with Paul, and something that to date, and Clifton, we've whored ourselves out all over this industry for the last decade. We've met a lot of great
everywhere, yes,
everywhere, but nobody can engage or communicate like Paul Homoly.
I first met Paul at a dental conference. I took a 1-hour lecture on case acceptance. I knew immediately he was going to be a great fit for me because he had such great positive energy, and he had a lot of success stories of helping other dentists throughout the United States on growing their practice. Dr. Homoly took my daily average production from $3,000 a day to $6,500 a day in just 1 month. He also increased my hygiene production $350,000 in 1 year. I was astounded by these numbers. He also helped me increase my team morale. He increased my patient loyalty, and he reduced my stress because I didn't have to work as many days. He also helped my dental associates to become very successful, and they also turned into owner dentists. He taught me how to speak emotionally to patients instead of speaking on a scientific level. For example, he taught me to talk about things like bad breath instead of using scientific terms like scaling and root planing. I will continue to work with Dr. Paul Homoly throughout the years to grow my practices, and I know if you implement Dr. Homoly's techniques, you will also have similar success.
Here's a question for you. How would you like to work with me and get the results like you've heard about in the last few minutes? Well, if so, then it runs us head on into the fourth limiting mindsets dentists say to themselves. They say, well, I can't change the way I do things. I should call this the mother of all limiting mindsets. Let's replace it with an empowering one. When I change, so will my world. See, your world is your practice. It's your team, home life, your circle of friends, your income, your future. I love the quote from Gandhi. He said, be the change you want to see in the world. If you're stuck and change is tough for you, then reframe the word change. Think of it as growth. Do you want to grow? Then you need to do the things that enable growth. Listen, I know it can be tough. Remember earlier I talked about for years my focus on case acceptance was doing what appealed to me? I wanted patients to know how much I knew. The fact that my case acceptance process wasn't about the patient, it was about me. For the case acceptance process to be successful, it has to appeal. It has to appeal to the patient. That realization was my turning point. It was not an easy fix for me. It was tough. It will be tough for you too. My mission is to make your turning point easy, to make it quick and permanent as possible. When you're ready to work together, here's how we can do it. For the next few minutes, I'm going to make you an offer to enroll in my online program, combined with telephone coaching and some other tools. Now, I'm not a bit bashful about making this offer because I know what it can do for you. If you're not ready to make the jump into doing the work to change your world, then my online program, it's not for you. It will be here when you're ready. Now, here's how we could work together. The online program is called Making It Easy for Patients to Say Yes. At its core is a detailed step-by-step process for expecting case acceptance for complete dentistry without losing patients to sticker shock. Let's start with one of its greatest benefits. You can learn all of it without getting on airplanes or staying in hotels, enduring hours of lectures in hotel rooms, spending a lot of money and trying to piece together all the conflicting advice you'll get. That's what I had to do. You won't have to do any of it. Plus, you and your team will learn it all in a few months, a fraction of time it took me. The content of Making It Easy for Patients to Say Yes is packaged into 16 streaming video lessons available 24/7. All videos are high production quality and well edited to fit into your team meetings. Lessons are short and snappy. Your team will enjoy them. These videos are viewable on all devices, desktops, laptops, tablets, cell phones. What this means is you can quickly review part of a lesson on your phone, then walk into an operatory and make it happen. The content is also available as streaming MP3 audio, perfect for drive time learning. Some of the best compliments I've received on my work have been from dentists who've repeatedly listened to my audio while they're driving. Every month, you and other dentists enrolled in the online program have the opportunity to attend a live webinar with me. This will be your chance to ask me specific questions and to others who are going through the same process as you. During these webinars, I'll offer updates on content and you'll hear success stories from others keeping you engaged in the program. Key parts of this online process are the leader and team member manuals. They have intelligent instructional design that guide the in-office learning experience. They're highly interactive with the video lessons and facilitate taking what you learn from the lessons into your day-to-day practice. These lessons are built around real-world patient case studies. These put the principles of case acceptance into context of everyday practice. Plus, the case studies are great for practicing your new case acceptance skills, so when you're ready to use them, you'll be confident. Along with the case studies are job aids and accountability tools. Job aids will keep you and your team on track. The accountability tools make sure everyone is on the same page at the same time. Accountability tools and job aids eliminate confusion and reinforce the responsibility of learning each lesson well. All members of our online program are eligible to belong to our private Facebook community. This community, it's designed to share case acceptance experiences, your best practices, challenges, and success stories. I encourage members to check into the community at least once a month to keep up with and stay in touch with each other. This is one of the best ways to learn. You and your team will be able to earn continuing education credits as you progress through the lessons. The entire online program earns 8 hours of PACE Academy of General Dentistry credits. What's nice is you can earn all these credits without leaving your office. You'll receive my 353-page ebook, Making It Easy for Patients to Say Yes. This book has been a bestseller among complete care dentists for years. From time to time, I'll include surprise bonuses, things like extra video lessons and content downloads. Recently, I had one of my students present a webinar showing his progress using one of the case acceptance principles. I do things like this because I know the surest way to learn something really well is knowing that someday you're going to teach it. I give this opportunity to all students who seek to take a leadership role. I was asked by a member of my team what I thought all of which I just described would be worth. He was asking to help me set a price for enrollment. I told him I wasn't sure. What I do know is what value it will create. For example, when you're able to treat one additional complete care patient a month for a treatment fee of, let's say, $5,000, then here's what that could look like in terms of revenue. All fixed expenses of your practice should already be covered from existing cash flow. The additional overhead from a $5,000 complete care patient would be laboratory and supply costs. This usually amounts to 20% or less. That makes your profit from a $5,000 case $4,000. That's just one case. What if we were able to do 2 a month or 3? Now, you and I both know that $5,000 is a conservative fee estimate for complete care. Do the math for $10,000 cases. What's it worth to make that happen? I decided to set the introductory enrollment tuition at $97 a month or $997 annually to save you a few $100s. Either way, you'll have a grace period where if for any reason you'll find this program is not right for you, I'll refund your tuition. Easy in or easy out. There's no risk. There's no contract and a full money-back guarantee. $97 a month. That's less than you spend on cotton rolls. So come on, sign up. Click this website link and enroll right now. Let's get going on helping you expect case acceptance for complete care with no fear of losing patients to sticker shock. Now, I'm going to switch on to my live webcam to answer your questions and comments. Thanks for listening.
Hey, everybody. Well, that should do it. I hope you enjoyed that that video. I know you hung in there, and I appreciate that. I'm one of the questions that I get all the time relative to this work is, how long do I have to wait until I get results? Well, if you watch this webinar again, it's going to be posted. You can watch it as many times as you like. If you watch this webinar again, you're already getting a start on it. Students of this work tell me that one of the most immediate results they get from it is they notice an immediate reduction of stress. They tell me, not having to educate patients, not having to teach patients how I'm going to fix their teeth. We're still going to educate patients, don't get me wrong there, but feeling less of the obligation of having to teach patients how we're going to fix their teeth takes away so much stress. Some of those testimonies are pretty interesting in the sense, if you listen to them carefully, I've been working with these practices for a number of years now. It's not going to take you a number of years, but I wanted to demonstrate people to you who have used this material and have had consistent long-term success with it. So your short-term referral, your short-term results with this is going to be immediate reduction of stress. And I would say within the first 2 to 4 months, you're going to begin to see an uptick in things. Now remember, complex care patients oftentimes will take, maybe a couple of months or maybe a couple of years to be getting ready for care, but they will not leave your practice. And when they become ready, they'll return to you. Another real question in there, a question that I get all the time is, well, I'm successful now with case acceptance, so why should I change? That's a very good point. And what I would ask is, well, what are you successful at? Are you successful at the type of dentistry you want to be doing? There's a lot of dentists who are doing really well with bread and butter dentistry. Those $1,500, $1,800 to $2,500 treatment plans, they're doing really well with. However, they've been through continued education. They've been through the Dawson Center or the Poise Center, and they're anxious to do more complete care dentistry. So even though case acceptance for the modest care case might be really good, case acceptance for the complete care case may not be. So you may be successful in case acceptance, but the question asks, are you successful in the type of dentistry that you want to be doing? If you are, then terrific. Then use this online program to teach your associates, because oftentimes just because you're successful doesn't mean the people around you or your associates will be successful. One of the things that I see all the time with successful complete care dentists is they're very good at case acceptance because they got the personality, they got the confidence, they got the experience. And in comes Dr. Junior, and Dr. Junior is sort of in the shadow of Dr. Senior. And oftentimes Dr. Senior might be a great clinician, but maybe not so great as a mentor or as a teacher. And this online program can help facilitate that. I hear all the time, I'm a new dentist. Will this help me? I would say if there's anybody that needs to get involved in making it easy for patients to say yes, it's the new dentist. Here's why. Dental school teaches us a lot of bad habits when it comes to dentistry. We teach patients how we're going to fix their teeth. And understand, like I said in the video, that will work for the modest care case, but once you get more complexity, then patients really need more of a sense of being understood. So new dentists begin to break some of the habits that you learned in dental school. Also, new dentists, if you learn this now early in your career, you've got the rest of your career to have its benefits. When I lecture, tonight I'm leaving and driving to the south end of Phoenix to give an all-day talk to a study club. This is a mature study club. These dentists have been in practice 10, 15, to 20 years. And I'm going to present this material to them. And I know what they're going to say. They're going to say, wow, I wish I had heard this, 20, 25 years ago. And finally, if you're a more mature dentist, you're an aging dentist, you may say, well, why should I get involved with this now? I'm almost done with my career. Well, if you're almost done with your career, you'll be looking to sell that practice. You'll be looking to bring in an associate or a partner. And what better way to increase the value of your practice than to increase collections and create a process within your practice so the new buyer can see that they're walking into an already successful environment. So everyone, thanks for your attention. I hope you enjoyed this program. How to expect case acceptance for complete care dentistry without losing patients to sticker shock. I'm Dr. Paul Homoly. Thanks for watching.